Hello, 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 and welcome back to another video. This time we're going way old school because we've got the unofficial Pac-12 standings. Ooh, ooh, presented by the BA Top 25. Now, since most of you know me as a gaming channel, and some of you know me as some food channel, uh, boom, way back in the day. The BA Top 25 was a weekly poll determined by me to combat East Coast bias because the polls and the networks were so hell-bent on pushing the Big 12, which I called the footlong, along with my uncle, who will probably appreciate this video, or hopefully appreciate this video. And let's see, there was the Big 10-inch or Big 10 and a half back when they were a reasonably sized conference. And then there was the SEC, which sometimes refers to as the Suck East Conference. But, they were all pushed so hard by ESPN and all the other, East Coast bias networks. And I wanted to push the Pac 12, which had superior teams, in my opinion. And on the field most of the times as well, in truth. Boom! Also, in addition to that, there was the Help Wanted Bottom 13 monthly ranking I put out of the worst of college football. Not just limited to teams, but I also provided commentary on the state of the sport, certain underperforming programs or coaches, and yeah, basically just anything that really irritated me, like officiating in a certain game. I would throw that in there and order a good pizza at once a month. I think it was the beginning of each month, or either that or the end of each month. But yeah, it had to be the beginning of each month because the first one was like the first week of the season or something. But yeah, so that's that. And this was maintained as a GeoCities website. Uh, Shout out in the comments if you remember what that was. And also an email, which probably annoyed a lot of my college friends and people on my mailing list. But what can you do? So, first off, we've got the official Pac 12 standings. And I mean, the reason I needed to make this was because SC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington bolted for the Big 10, which is 18 teams and a ridiculous name. And they even took away, they didn't have a North and South or an East and West, really. But they did have two divisions, and that's no longer a thing now. The ACC, Atlantic Coast Conference, picked up Stanford and Cal because they belong in the Atlantic Coast Conference. And let's see, Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and Arizona State actually went somewhere that makes sense. The Big 12, which again we call the footlong. But yeah, I don't think nobody has any divisions anymore that I'm aware of, and it's kind of ridiculous that you got these bloated conferences and cross-regional things where the culture is different and the style of play is slightly different. But anyway, the only two teams remaining in the Pac-10 are Oregon State and Washington State. So it's more like the Pac-2, but boom, there you go. You got Oregon State with a record of 5-7, 1-0 in conference is number one, and Washington State with a record of 8-4, who was doing really well until was it New Mexico that eked them out at the end, and then they lost to Wyoming today. So, but yeah, they were like, was it 8-2? Something like that, maybe 7-2, and then ended up 8-4, 0-1 in conference because that was the only conference game played. However, We're going to the boom unofficial Pac-12 standings. You've got the Pac-12 South and the Pac-12 North. Coming in at number 5 in the South, we've got a tie. UCLA, 5-7 overall, 0-3 in conference. Utah, 5-7 overall, 0-3 in conference. Utah lost to Colorado. And I forget who else they played. UCLA, of course, lost to Washington and USC. And did they play Oregon? I think that was their other loss. So we've got their conference records in the Pac-12 there, unofficially, that mind you. Arizona comes in at 4th with their even worse 4-8 record overall, but they did pick up a conference win against 2 losses, one of them coming today to ASU. USC comes in 3rd with their overall record of 6-6. They are 1-1 in conference. Did not play Oregon or any of the other Pac-12 teams, but they did beat UCLA last week and lost to Washington earlier in the season as part of the, what are they? I think they were 3-5 in one-score games at the end of the day. And they were competitive in all 5 and just blew it in the 4th quarter. So, yeah, the defense has been sus all year. And they could very well be, 10-2? Because Notre Dame was pretty bad. But they could have beaten Michigan, who beat Ohio State today. So, whatever. What do I know? I'm just an armchair quarterback, right? Coming in number 2, we got Colorado, overall record of 9-3, 2-0 in conference, and they did not play the number 1 team in the South, Arizona State. I don't know why University is there, because I didn't put University in anything else, but they're 10-2 overall, and I think they're going to play in the footlong championship game, and 2-0 in conference, and they did not play Colorado, so we'll never know which one of them, unless they both make the playoffs. But yeah, okay, so those are the Pac-12 South standings. Moving on to the Pac-12 North. Boom, Stanford with an atrocious 3-9 record, although I'm sure there were some offers. Yeah, I haven't checked the full standings, but they were 0-1 in conference, losing to Cal. And yeah, they only played the 1 game from a Pac-12 team. 5th, Oregon State, despite the 1 win against Wazoo, has an overall record of 5-7, and we're 1-2 in conference, losing just barely to Oregon, I believe. But you can look it up if you like. I guess we've got a tie for 3rd there, because Washington State beat Washington. Washington State has an 8-4 overall record, but 1-1 in conference, and I decided to tie that with Washington, 6-6 overall, 2-2 in conference. Because 1-1 is 500, and 2-2 is also 500. Number 2 in the Pac-12 North with a 6-6 record, very unimpressive. But 2-0 in conference by beating Stanford and forget who else they played. But Cal comes in at number 2, and of course Pac-12 North, number 1 Oregon, undefeated, number 1 team in the land, 12-0, 3-0 in conference, beating Oregon State, USC, and Washington today. So those are your unofficial Pac-12 standings. We should have the Pac-12 championship next week. ASU should be at Oregon, and yeah, those are the unofficial Pac-12 standings, which have no basis in reality now that we've got this bizarre college football landscape today. So, where do we go moving forward? All Back to the Future, all the way to the year 2000. In the year 2000. Do we really need a top 25 now that there is an actual playoff system? I mean, that it could go for my poll, it could go for the existing major polls. So I don't know. I mean, let it play out on the field. Let the teams with the 12 best records go at it, regardless of conference. There will continue to be unofficial Pac-12 standings. I don't think I'll do them weekly or possibly monthly if there are enough games next year. But definitely one at the end of the season, just like this one. And the most important question of all, though, can I find pizza good enough to warrant a help wanted bottom 13? Because I would regularly order pizza for to watch the games. Wake up about halfway through the early game, starting at 9 o'clock here on the West Coast, and then sometimes go all the way until about 2 in the morning to finish up with Hawaii. So on a maxed out day, I would have watched 5 games straight, and of course flipping between the channels to see what else is on. But yeah, once a month when I was doing the help on a bottom 13, I'd order an extra special pizza that was really tasty. So, can I find pizza good enough to warrant that in the future? So, hope you enjoyed this video of the unofficial Pac-12 standings. Let me know what you think in the comments. I mean, it's been a minute. Thank you for watching. And until next time, keep dancing.